It's another Manly Monday, and this Manly Monday, we are talking aggression isn't strength. And yes, this is inspired by my experience over the weekend. I'm not going to get into that here. It's Manly Monday, not Twitter drama Monday. But this is something, I mean, I knew, but I hadn't totally internalized it until I started doing YouTube. Because for a bunch of different reasons growing up where I grew up, doing the job I had to do when I was younger, with journalism, you have to be very, very aggressive, especially in games journalism. When you don't work for a major outlet, you have to sort of barge your way in and not care if people don't like you, because you need to get the story. And, EA loses your appointment every year and WB tries to shut your interviews down. And Ubisoft, bless them, had a ton of studios in Canada, but there was no actual desk for you to check in. There was America and there was Europe and there, Asia, but no Canada. And so in order to get access, you had to find the Canada rep who was roaming around, and it's Ubi. It was always, you had to just let it happen with Ubisoft. But you had to sort of learn the ropes and be aggressive and get what you came there to do. But that's not coming at it from a position of strength, right? You have to be, you have to be aggressive because you're not coming at it from a position of strength. It's the sort of thing, are you the biggest, the biggest dog doesn't have the loudest bark. The yappy dog is the little one, right? And I want to talk about that as it connects to manhood and masculinity and what it means. Because, then I came over to YouTube and I brought my same scrapper attitude with me, and it didn't go well because I was still looking at it from the point of view of somebody who had no power. And you guys finally said to me, like, you're punching down when you're fighting with everybody. I still, grab for every crumb mentality. I'm like, all right, let's try it. And so it was more chill. It's like, all right, you get that shot. All right, you get that shot. You know what? It worked. It worked. Things settled down. The comments became more high quality. People respect the very few rules I put on this channel, which is, no personal attacks. And that ties into this, but let me do the help support this channel. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use but can't afford it, coffee.com/Leanna K. Both of these methods of supporting me are very, very important. Moving on. Okay. A lot of ums. So when you are feeling strong, when you are coming at something from a strong place, there's a calm around the person, right? I keep going back to Captain America, got the shield back there, because he's just, I can do this all day. He's a guy who can split wood with his hands. So why would he stress about things? Why would he be yelling at each other? He's yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Superman's the same way. Excuse me, ma'am, is this man bothering you? The guys who are the strongest are chill, right? Because if they're not, they're scary. And real strength, that strength that is leadership, and the strength that, If you listen to two women talking and listen to a song, like that's what women are looking for too, right? That is strong enough to protect me, kind enough to never hurt me, right? But that, I mean, song's right. That's the sweet spot. But it actually is very hard to achieve, right? When people are coming at you and saying nasty things about you and, you know, the quit it poke. Like when it's just a nuisance. Like the friggin' dragonflies in Elden Ring, right? They're so fucking hard to hit, but they don't do very much, but they're annoying, you know, you're, right? But you can't do that, right? You gotta be chill. You gotta be chill. You just, and I mean, there's sort of a zen that goes on when you're playing Elden Ring eventually, because at first you're like, oh my God. And then as you settle in, it gets more and more, be patient, wait, hold back, hang back, wait for your opportunities, you know, block, dodge, wait for those couple of hits. That's how you win. And that patience, that sense of a center is the crack in that game. It's why, despite all the very legitimate complaints about some of its design, people love that game. Because you do, it's a hard game, not as hard as some of the other ones. People were right about that. But it's a hard game. But that, when you hit the zone, and yeah, okay, it happens around level 150. But when you hit that zone where it's just, okay, I know what I'm doing and I'm strong and I got all this stuff and I have all this gear and it's just, yeah, you do feel powerful. Even though it's really fucking hard. And then fucking fire giant comes and is like, how do I kill this thing? And then you do it because you settle in and you figure it out and it's methodical. That is strength. And I mean, the interesting thing about Elden Ring is it's such a fucked up world that it's just, it's a very interesting dialogue with the self, because it's like, how do you want to commit heresy? You know, how do you want to commit blasphemy? Somehow. Because you got to, because everything's screwed. And it's interesting with the environmental storytelling, but it speaks to a very real truth that strength isn't always getting what you want. And it's not forcing people to bow to your will. It's, you know, it's, I can do this all day. I'm still mulling over, because you guys know I love my D&D stats. And I say, you know, wisdom and intelligence are different skills for a reason. And, you know, in D&D, strength and fortitude are different skills for a reason. And part of that's gamification, but in Elden Ring, it's split up into like vigor, endurance, strength, and then you have dexterity. But, you know, people could be saying, no, you're talking about endurance, not strength, the ability to endure. And no, I'm not. I'm talking about tanking, right? Because strength is all about projecting force. And true strength means you know when not to take the shot. When it's like, yep, okay. You know, it's the cool Luke Skywalker moment in The Last Jedi. You know, that just, you know, Kylo Ren's all angry. He's like, he's all aggressive. And Luke just goes, yep, you ain't shit, kid. You know, and that you're like, yeah, he's freaking the dude in that moment. And that really, you can't fake that. That's the thing. It's not, you know, oh, I'm so tough. And you can see through it. You can see when somebody's just posturing. And the very aggressive people out there, the very aggressive people on social media and in life, are very weak people at their core. And they have to be aggressive to try to cover up the sense of weakness. And that, I think, is a thing a lot of people don't understand about the whole gaming space, right? When things get loud, when things get exciting, you know, and it's these are people who feel powerless and feel small and feel weak, and they're acting accordingly. And it may seem very loud, but you smell the fear, so to speak. And I've always just been somebody who, and I mean, I get somebody, I was on Tristan's stream over the weekend, and someone said, you're too big for your boots sometimes, and you're a smart ass, but you also seem very measured when you talk on topics. You're difficult to, what is it, unpack or something like that. And I took that as a compliment, right? And of course I joked, it's not my boots that I'm too big for, it's my damn bra. And of course everybody laughed. But I said I take that as a compliment, because you can either take a negative frame of that. Oh, you said he was too big for my boots. But I think at the end he was like, I don't like you, but I respect you. And for me, that's awesome, because I can't control if people like me. I can control whether I behave with consistency and with honor. And so even people who can't stand me, you can tell when someone understands respect, when they can parse that, right? There are people I don't terribly care for in terms of the type of content they do, but I respect the hell out of their work ethic, right? A lot of working in music, the pop acts, I was never a big fan of that music, but they were, 16 to 21-year-old kids, and they worked their ass off, and they were extremely professional. And I actually got more of an appreciation for the music because I saw how hard they worked. And I respected that. I was a, grunge and hip hop and rock listener back then, alternative music, a lot of goth music. And so it wasn't my music, but then, the acts whose music I'd like would come in, and they'd be just assholes. And I'd be like, it got to the point where I didn't want to meet bands whose music I liked anymore, because they were always assholes. I don't like you anymore. You're just a weak person. And my idea of weakness is different than the one you encounter. By that I mean weak will. Elden Ring has a poise stat. And, if you break poise, then all of a sudden you get some free licks in, and it's awesome. But there's some characters that are incredibly strong as enemies, but they have very low poise. And so you can break their stance. And so they're actually easier to beat than some of the others. Rotten breath is rather exploity as a weapon, but I digress. But this matters, right? Because when we talk about masculinity, when we talk about what it means to be a man and what it means to have masculine norms and masculine ideals, the difference between healthy masculinity and masculinity that hurts men and everybody else is the idea of what we prize in society. And you read the old stories, like going back to Beowulf and, some of the Norse myths and the Odyssey and the Iliad. Yeah, I'm a nerd. yes, you have the myths of Hercules and all that stuff, but the characters were very emotional. You know, when their friends died, they cried and they were openly upset about things, but then, you know, they were strong and they were willing to sacrifice when it mattered a lot of the time so that their men would benefit. You know, Odysseus had that, you know, his men would fuck up and he'd have to solve it. And, you know, and, you know, meanwhile, Penelope would be back home and there'd be all these men and she'd be like fending them off. And it, it was sort of, yes, you understood seeing Odysseus, why, you know, him and his wife had the respect for each other, that she would just wait, right? It was an honorable paradigm. And we don't have those sorts of stories anymore. So it's really hard to model that. I mean, in the Norse myth, the one I've been talking about a lot lately is the myth of Tyr with the wolf. And because, you know, Tyr was the one-handed god. And that's because he put, was it Fenrir? Um, in order to shackle the wolf, he had to put his hand in the wolf's mouth as a trust exercise, right? And Tyr's the god of justice, the god of just warfare, just conflict. And, you know, when he clasped the thing around the wolf's neck, the wolf bites his hand off because it's like, you fucker, we had a deal, you screwed me. But it's like, did Tyr know the wolf was going to do that? Was that the trade-off? Like, was that the justice for shackling him? This is the cool thing about those old myths, is you can discuss them. The Christianization of mythology means there's like one right answer to everything, instead of, you know, older stuff where you debate it and there's multiple meanings and there's layers, and you'll read one story when you're younger and take one meaning from it and go back to it years later and get something completely different. And that's why, you know, in Judaism we read the Torah over and over and over again, because you do connect to different things at different times. You know, when I was a kid, the story of Leia, it's like, who'd want to be her? You know, because she's, you know, she's the responsible one, and she gets, Jacob gets tricked into marrying Leia because she's the older daughter, and they had to marry the older daughter off before the younger daughter, Rachel, who Jacob was in love with. And it's sort of a miserable polyamorous relationship, because it's, you know, the great love story of all time, a man, two women, and their slaves. And one interpretation of that story, it was a way of weaning the people of the time off multiple marriages because they were hard. And it's an example of not saying, don't do this, it's bad, you know, the way Paul did with gay people. Instead, it was, look, here's the trade-off. And that's the big difference between, you know, the Jewish approach and the Christian approach. Instead of it being all fire and brimstone, except for the Ten Commandments, it's, well, if you do this, here's the shit, right? But the older I get, and, you know, as you get older as a woman, you have to face not being cute anymore. And I don't have a problem with that because I was never cute. But, you know, you're not the pretty little thing. Again, I never was. But, you know, to a certain age, you always sort of hope, you try. And now it's like, you know, my inner voice is Kratos, man. And you sort of go, all right, where's my worth as a person? Because, you know, people freak out at 30 now, but even 40, like, you're nobody's idea of a beauty ideal. And so you're just like, well, that frees up some space, but also where is my worth now? And character was always very important to me, but in a way it's more freeing to not have to worry about being, a nice girl. You get into Golden Girls where they're all freaking snarky, and Sophia's the mouthiest one because she's the oldest one, but they were all, I mean, in their own way, they all had zingers. And it is true that you can do that. You have this freedom as an older woman to do that because you just don't care anymore. And you see men settle down the same way too, but you definitely see as men get older, what they want changes as well. And you start hearing less and less about a beautiful woman, and you start hearing more and more about a good woman, right? Because there's a man who's secure in who he is, so he doesn't need the ego boost for like a supermodel or whatever. And I'm not saying some younger guys aren't like this too. Some guys are brought up proper. But as a man gets older, it's like, I want companionship. I want someone I can talk to. I want someone who's there for me. I want someone I can rely on. I want a partner, right? And that's because as you get older, you get more secure. You get more comfortable with who you are. You get better at self-acceptance if you're doing it right. But it's also like, I have a mortgage, but I own my home and I have a certain amount of equity. There's a certain amount of security there that if you're 25 years old and have college debt and you're renting and rent is ridiculous, it's a lot less secure. You're one job loss away from real tough times. Whereas if you have a home, you can have a lot of credit, you can take things, you can borrow against your mortgage. It's a whole new world. And that's the thing. You're more stable, you have a stronger position in society, and so you can be more chill. And so you don't have to be aggressive the way people who are younger are. And you really do sit back and go, yeah, I remember what it was like to be that. I remember what it was like to be that panicked and act out and tear people apart. And then you get people like me who will check behavior. Because I've made a lot more mistakes than other people. And I would prefer people have to learn the easy way than the hard way. And a lot of people don't listen, but I'm still going to be the person that says, hey, don't fight smart, not hard. Right? And that's I realize that's sort of the theme of all this Manly Monday stuff. Like, you don't have to fight so hard. Fight smart. Right? Because we're sort of at a point where there's never been a more confusing time to be a man. That just is. Right? The flip side of that is there's a lot more tropes. There's a lot more archetypes to choose from than ever before. But it can be really confusing and it can feel like there's no right answer because no matter what you model yourself on, there's a trade-off and somebody doesn't like it. Right? And that's where the strength of choice comes in. And you go, I'm going to make a choice. And that means this group of people is going to get mad at me, but they're not my people. And so I'm going to stick to my people. And I'm going to make the choice for my people and not worry about the people who are not my people being angry. Obviously, that takes a strength of will, right? And instead of explaining yourself, you're just like, y'all have a conversation. Cool, but I'm not budging. And I had a lot of those conversations over the weekend. It's a real trip when people are like coming at you, rah, 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 rah. And then meanwhile, like after they take chunk after chunk after chunk out of you, then they want to, let's take this to DMs. And then they're nice. Then they're, oh, you grew up in Toronto. Did you know this place? Did you know this place? Uh-huh. Oh, it's interesting. I'm not real good at coffee. Do you want to meet for coffee? Like, you just called me every name in the book in public. And now you're doing this. How interesting. And again, if you're feeling less strong, you get angry, right? You get aggressive. Like, no, Because I was like, okay, interesting. Cool. Because what does it matter? I don't care. You know? But it was just really, really interesting the way the performative aggression just melted away when it was one-on-one and they couldn't rely on the gang up, right? I mean, with me, people can't rely on the gang up anyway. I don't care. I've been through it too many times. And, you realize that every time there's a kerfuffle, it raises your profile. For me, it's also sticking a pin in something so I'm consistent, because integrity is so important. And especially in gaming, people do check where you sat on a previous position. So if you're all over the place, if you have completely different moral and behavioral standards based on which group is involved, gamers smell that, and that's it. They're not going to listen to you. And I like that. Like, that's why gamers are my people, right? Because those are good terms. Those are good rules. I very much value that about the gaming community, because I do think ultimately the discussions are more challenging because it's not constant appeals to emotion, right? But ultimately, I think the results are better because of that higher challenge. Like we had this in this channel recently, right? I'm like, I don't want to add another rule, and I don't want to just do something without talking to you guys. So, how are we going to do this? And eventually I found a way to apply existing rules in a way that made sense, as opposed to making a new rule that would just be completely out of place, not consistent, and therefore not fair. Because a big part of fairness is people knowing the rules and knowing how to follow the rules. And that, learning that from gamers has made me a much better manager, a much better leader, and a much better person. Because, yeah, you have to communicate your expectations for people so they know how to win, as opposed to just giving positive and negative feedback on the back end. And people are just constantly learning by screwing up. A lot of the time I'll say to people, look, just try it. Okay, just give it 2 more months. If you don't like it, then you can quit. But usually that gets over the shaky bits, and they find new confidence. And then that person remembers you didn't give up on them. And for people who have dealt with like cancel culture, or very all or nothing, those very punitive environments, that's powerful. But you can only do that if you're not getting drawn into somebody else's drama. Because somebody coming at you and calling you names and writing hit pieces and smear, that's them being weak. When somebody's lying about you, that's very weak-willed. If they have a solid argument, they should be able to do it based on the truth, right? And I wasn't always as prosaic about it back in the day, when they were lying about me about Gamergate. Some people still believe that shit, but whatever, I got you guys. I don't need the masses. You guys support my content, with the one-on-one sessions with the Leanna Cares slash It's Not Therapy stuff. Um, I don't need a massive audience. I want quality over quantity. And I like things being smaller so that there can be conversations and it can be meaningful exchanges. We listen to each other, right? And that's why I didn't want to start cutting off ideas, because I'm well aware that there are some things that um, I've really evolved on. I mean, addiction is one of them. When I was younger, because there were so many addicts in my family and I was fighting that fear, it's like, no, addiction's bad. And the more I worked with addicts, the more I understood, and the more I kind of chilled, the more I realized, no, it's not a moral failing. It's it's a form of hard mode of life. It's an extra difficulty of these are people who have to resist things that the rest of us don't. And I mean, I know with the various, chronic health conditions I have, that's another difficulty setting, right? So that's my burden. But, thank God I don't have those addictive personalities. I can overindulge, but I'm not craving something all the time, right? And that's hard. And I learned kindness and strength and kindness, like song says, are interrelated. That romantic lead in the stories, it's that. It's um that's why one of my favorite parts of Thor Love and Thunder was that whole thing about love is finding somebody that you want to feel shitty for. I thought that's worth feeling shitty for. And it's like, Star-Lord, that came from Star-Lord, which is like, what the fuck? Why did he say something profound? But I think that was the beauty of the line, is it was a douchebag way to say it. But it's actually true. When something matters, you are willing to do the hard stuff for it. When something feels right, even when it's tough, like playing a FromSoft game, one of the good FromSoft games, Dark Souls 2, Elden Ring, um, even when it sucks, even when it's really frustrating and angering and feels unfair, like when people stab you through walls, or your horse gets stuck on a little tiny, tiny tree, like Torrent, break the tree, Torrent, the thing's coming, fuck, you have died. It's bullshit. But the payoff's worth it, right? And strength is remembering the payoff's worth it. That's true of physical strength when you're exercising, like, yeah, getting up and going to the gym early, not fun. The weightlifting, some days. This weekend, I was just tired, man, and everything was hard. But I did it. Because, with me, it's maintenance. I'm less symptomatic if I make sure I exercise. And it's good for me overall, right? But strength is doing the tough stuff without complaint. And that doesn't mean you can't snark. It doesn't mean you can't poke fun. We all love our Marvel character catchphrases, right? The quips. But we don't see perpetually angry people as strong. We see them as scary because they're out of control. A strong person is chill. A strong person is somebody that you feel comfortable around, even though, they could literally or figuratively snap you in two. And I mean, yes, I'm aware I have a bit of that energy. Like, I can snarl. I can be quite cutting. I choose not to a lot of the time, right? And that's why people can come here and feel like they can speak and comment, and I never want to lose that, right? That's why I was weighing weighing the different comfort levels and finding a way forward that made the most sense. Hopefully you found that interesting, because you'll see a lot of aggression out there, and aggression's addictive. It's really easy to fight back in kind when you see it, but it's the wrong call. It weakens you. It takes you down to the person's level. And it's hard at first not playing their game. But it's also very satisfying when dozens of people are calling you a literal penis. That's what I went through on the weekend, and writing bullshit hit pieces and thinking this is a big victory. And then, people privately and in real life are going, those people are nuts. Why are they calling you a penis? They think they're super strong. They think they're showing me. That's not how strong people see them. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching Manly Mondays.